So let's talk a little bit about what you can expect from the training implementing with your program. The number one thing that I hear from coaches is that they have better practices. In particular, they say that the first 20 minutes of practice is better after implementing mental training. We teach athletes and teams to implement a 3 to 5 minute technique that we develop that has breathing and visualization, and it really helps your athletes, and actually it helps coaches too, just get mentally prepared, mentally warmed up, if you will, for practice. As you know, athletes are, kind of stretched thin. Coaches are as well. Athletes are coming from class, or they're in the training room. They skipped lunch. They had a fight with their boyfriend. Whatever. Their mind, half the time, as you know, is not really on practice. Their body's there, but their mind is oftentimes other places. And so, how do you get them mentally there? And this technique that we've developed is really helpful. It's really simple. It doesn't take a lot of time. And athletes, coaches will get busy and they'll get distracted, and then they'll say, oh, we don't have time for a 5-minute thing today. And a lot of our clients tell us, our coaches, our athletes that we work with are like, no, coach, we have to do our breathing exercise. So a lot of them really like it. They like, kind of being there mentally, because they get frustrated too at the beginning of practice when they're not doing well. And then they see the frustration in you. And then, it kind of snowballs from there. And what this training really does is it saves coaches time and frustration. So you think again about that iceberg, and you think about everything that's going on beneath the surface, and that feeling of, I don't really know what's going on beneath the first surface, and I can't really do anything about it until it's too late. So if Julie's not ready to play on Saturday night, well, I know it about halfway into the game, maybe even sooner, but what can you do about it? And so coaches are really spending a lot of time and a lot of energy on helping their athletes, or trying to help their athletes with this part of the game. And, there's a lot of other things that you have to do as well. And athletes really need these tools sort of in their own toolbox. Personal growth is really difficult to do for someone else. In fact, it's impossible. And so what are your athletes given to facilitate that growth in themselves? And it gives you that peace of mind knowing that you've given them everything that they need, and everything that can really help them be successful. And then it's up to them, right? There's a lot of accountability and personal accountability in this as well. Again, wins, obviously that's nothing we can promise or guarantee, but we're seeing that. And again, I think that comes back to better practices. And you think about how much time is wasted in your practices over the course of a year. Because not only is that 20 minutes wasted when they're just not mentally there, but your blood pressure rises, and that tension in the gym or in the pool or in the rink, whatever, gets too much, and then they start getting hesitant because they're worried that you're going to be mad again. And that really does snowball. And you think about how many practices are wasted over the course of a season that could be more productive. And I really believe that's a lot of where the wins come from. Recruiting, you're talking to a parent who's worried about their baby, and they're worried about their kid going and doing what is probably the most challenging situation of their life, where they're going to need the most mental toughness they've ever had, and they're really not prepared. And so what are you going to do to prepare them and help them with all aspects? I talk to coaches a lot, and those freshmen, the stress that they're under with really no tools. I mean, a lot of them have never really been challenged in that sense before, where they got academics and they got time constraints and they're tired and they're just trying to stay afloat. And so how can something like meditation help them deal with all the stress that they're under? Parents love that. It's very cost effective. So, I always look back on my career and I think about a couple teammates, and they were just the greatest people. They worked hard. They wanted to be as good as they could be, and they couldn't. They had no tools. And you think about how much money, let's just go to money, how much money was spent on their scholarship, on their food and board, on their travel, on their everything. And then you think about how much time was spent on them. And you think about the coaches, and you think about the tutors, and you think about everything. And then you think about the energy that the coaches spent on this athlete. And again, you can't make somebody mentally tough. You can't make somebody motivated. You can't make somebody engage in personal growth. But These athletes were not unmotivated and they wanted to do well. They just didn't know how. And you think about one athlete that you've had in your career, and you think about how much time and energy you wasted on them because they didn't have any tools in their tool belt to help themselves. And so when you look at it that way, this is not a lot of money. When you think about everything that's going on under the surface, and how much money we spend on the physical side of athletics, when the mental side is really what can screw it all up. And I've had experiences with that, and you've had experiences with that. And you think about a little bit of money and a low time investment, really, for this huge payoff where you have athletes that are mentally tough, that they have the tools in their tool belt to develop mental toughness and confidence, and they feel empowered to do something. Right now, they feel, that would be my guess. I don't know your athletes particularly, but I work with a lot of athletes, and most of them feel sort of powerless. They don't know how much control they really have because they've never been taught how to do it. And so sometimes they play good, sometimes they play awful. They don't really know why. It's frustrating for them, it's frustrating for you. And this is not a huge time investment. We're talking about 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. And as a coach, you can do as much or as little as you want. If you do nothing else but hand this to your athletes and say, this is what we're doing this year, they will benefit from it. You can do more if you want. If you don't want to, that's okay. So this isn't a huge time investment. It's not a huge time investment for your athletes either. We're talking about 20-minute workouts, maybe once a week, twice a week, depending on your schedule. And again, they're going to have little bursts of information. They're going to have their mobile phone. And, they do have time during the season, especially with travel and on the road and that sort of thing, to do a 5-minute or 10-minute thing here and there.